guys ever had one of those moments where you're just like watching yourself think? Like, you'll have a random thought, and then all of a sudden, you notice that you're having the thought. And every time that happens, when it happens to me, I always ask myself, like, wait, who's noticing it? Because if you can notice a thought, then you're not the thought. You know what I mean? And then I started thinking about like emotions too. I get anxious, I get excited or sad, and I can literally feel myself noticing the emotion while it's happening. Same thing with our personality. I feel like I act a little different depending on who I'm with. Around some people I'm quieter, around some people, I'm a little more bubbly. It just depends on, who I'm with. I'm like matching the energy of the person that I'm with. And, if all those things are so interchangeable, it makes me think, what's actually the same? What's the constant? Because my personality is always changing, my emotions are always changing, my thoughts are always changing. What isn't changing? I used to think I had to figure out who I was, like there had to be one perfect identity that I'd eventually discover. But, the more I've evolved as a person, I don't think we have an identity. I think just the thought that you think you have an identity is it's an illusion. We don't have an identity, we are awareness. That's the thing that stays the same. When everything's changing, the one thing that stays the same is the awareness that notices everything changing. Because I'm not going to be this person in 5 years. I'm going to be completely different. But the person that's experiencing it, the identity, how do I say this? No, I guess the soul that's experiencing it stays the same, but the identity is what's changing. Because when I think about it, the same person who experienced me being, a 5-year-old little girl, or me being a 15-year-old teenager, or me being a 19-year-old adult, it's always that same consciousness experiencing it. There's a different identity. I'm not the same person I was when I was 10, but I was the same awareness that I was then. I'm still the same awareness. Think about it. When you were 5 years old, you had completely different thoughts. You had different fears, a different personality, your body looked different. Literally, almost everything about you was different. But doesn't it kind of feel like there was only the same person was experiencing all that? It's still the same consciousness that was experiencing you being 5, and it's still the same consciousness that's experiencing you being however old you are now. And I feel like there's this like quiet awareness that's just been there this entire time, and you just have to notice it. You just need to actually like feel it and acknowledge that that's there. It's always watching, but never judges. And I feel like that's essentially our soul in a way. That's our awareness, because we're always changing as people. Our identities are always evolving, our egos are always changing and developing new fears and whatever else, but our awareness stays the same. It's just the thing that's experiencing everything. A lot of people talk about trying to, find themselves or discover who they are, but I feel like lately I've come to realize that there's nobody for us to find, because there's never going to be a moment where you'll be like, okay, this is it, like this is who I am, because we are literally always changing. We are always evolving as people. There's never going to be a moment where we're at a finish line. Quite honestly, I don't think there is a finish line. I think the human experience is part of like evolving as much as you can, and I think that's kind of like the beauty of it. There's no ending, and you can always be better. Like how people say no one's perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect. There's always room for improvement, because I don't really think there's a way for us to truly reach our highest selves on earth. I think that's something that comes after. I don't know exactly what that is or how that happens, but I think on Earth we're just meant to have a human experience and to, evolve our souls as best we can on the journeys that we are.